Speak at a church planting seminar called Seeds. It's an NAD thing. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe not. Anyway, but it was right before a GC session, the Seeds thing, and it was at Southern, and I was one of the seminar presenters. And because A, I'm not well known, B, I'm talking about publishing, and I don't have an accent. D, I oftentimes don't use humongous words, and I don't memorize things like Randy Skeet, or whatever. I didn't have anything basically attractive about me. Plus, I always look like I'm 16 years old, and it's like, what can I learn from this guy? Basically, I showed up to my thing, and a bunch of people had already left for the GC session, because it was immediately afterwards, so it was kind of a bad timing thing. But I had one person in my seminar. You know how it was embarrassing? I didn't feel like an ego issue. It's just more so, it's really awkward to stand there and try and talk to just one person. It's really, why are you doing that? So I just sat down in a chair next to him, and we just talked about the same thing that I was going to present, but just much more informally. So you guys make me feel good by showing up. That's all that I was trying to say. So thanks for showing up. I know this might be new for you, so I'm happy for you, and I'm glad, but I've given this presentation and variations of it so many times. If I had my wish, and maybe we need to work this out, Dale, maybe I could come back some other time and give some other presentations that I'm also excited about. I wouldn't say I'm not excited about this one, obviously I am, but I've been doing, for example, putting together a presentation on the investigative judgment, because that is, again, being called into question by some prominent people that have fallen away from the church and so on. Man, the more I study Daniel 7, it's amazing. There's so much in there. And if you approach the Bible from a historicist standpoint of interpreting Bible prophecy and not preterism or futurism, man, you can't miss it. It's there. You might want to quibble over the nature of the judgment, but it's definitely there chronologically. I'd love to talk about that. I also have presentations on lessons that we can learn from birds, because one of my hobbies is going and finding birds, and a lot of interesting facts. I have bird quizzes built in to test your bird knowledge, things like that. So, for example, did you know that? And this one is interesting tidbit that you can share with your friends and impress them. Did you know that owls have 3 different colored eyes? Black, orange, and yellow. And the color of eye that they have indicates what time of day they hunt, or what time of day or evening. So the black ones hunt at night. They're nocturnal. The ones that have orange eyes hunt when the sun is rising or setting. They're crepuscular. And the ones that have yellow eyes hunt during the day. Very easy to remember, because black, night, orange, when the sun's going up or down, that's the golden hour, and then yellow is during the day. So it's pretty interesting stuff. So I have presentations, 2 of them actually, that are jam-packed with that kind of interesting information and quizzes to test your brains. So I'm not changing my subject today, though. Just let you know. And then the last one, of course, that I'd like to present at some point would be, which I enjoy really presenting, is on chiastic structures. Do you guys know what chiastic structures are? So when people used to write in the Bible, oftentimes they would build their writings in a literary format. It's a type of parallelism, but rather than going A, B, A, B, like we are typically used to seeing in Psalms, for example, it's like A, B, B, A. So it's symmetrical. You can cut it in half, and the one side accurately reflects the other side. Follow me? Yeah? Okay, so these are all over the Bible. Not only that, but this is one of the ways that we can see that the Bible is inspired by somebody that's out beyond the authors of the Bible, because these chiastic structures, these thematic ones, the ones that are based on themes, span the entire Bible or different portions of the Bible, which show that the Bible has a unity to it and a clarity to it, a uniformity to it that just couldn't have been orchestrated by humans. Let me share. Can I just share with you one example, and then we'll get to our presentation? Just one example. And I told somebody here, and I'm going to try and stick to it. I'm going to try and be done in an hour, all right? So, the story of Jacob, that whole story is built in a chiastic structure. Did you know that? So I found that the other day. I think maybe a recent Sabbath school lesson covered part of it. Maybe not. I'm trying to remember, but I know that I found it. So, think about this. Now follow me, okay? At the beginning of the story of Jacob, or towards the beginning, there is a father, Isaac, that's deceived by his son. That deception involved a dead animal, right, because he covered himself with animal skin, and it involved a covering, because he covered his arms, his neck with the animal skin. At the end, towards the end of the story of Jacob's life, Jacob is now the father, and he is deceived by his sons. And it involved a dead animal, because they killed an animal to stain the jacket of Joseph, and it involved a covering, because it was Joseph's coat of many colors, which is a covering, right? Now, moving forward time-wise, from Jacob deceiving Isaac, you have Jacob running away from his home. He's running away from Esau. He's fearful. He's alone at night. He has a divine interaction, which is the vision with the ladder. And there are divine promises that are given him. Now, moving backwards in Jacob's story from the deception, you have Jacob at Jacob's time of trouble. He's running away from Laban, which is his home. He's alone at night because he crossed over the brook. He's by himself. He's having all these mental anguish, fear, struggles. He has divine interaction, and he has promises that are given to him. So the night with the stone under his head is actually in this chiastic literary format. It's parallel with Jacob's time of trouble. And when you compare those two, this is one of the purposes of chiastic structures, is when you compare the two legs, you can, by comparison, make different assessments and deductions that you wouldn't have been able to otherwise if you didn't understand the literary context, right? Okay, so now we're not done. Moving forward, because we're going up the mountain, right? Both sides, to the apex. Moving forward, he joins Laban. Moving backward, he runs away from Laban. That's not a deep one. Moving yet forward, Jacob works 7 years for Leah. Moving backward, Jacob works 7 years for Rachel. And right in the center is when Jacob is deceived himself by Leah and by Laban, the father-in-law. So at the apex, or the center of this chiastic structure, Jacob is deceived. On both ends, the terminal points, there's also deception. He deceives his dad over here. He's also deceived by his sons over here. And one way that you know that you've traced a chiastic structure to its terminal point, to the endings, is when you find that the tips are matching the theme or the topic of the center, if that makes sense. Now, just to show that the story of Jacob in that portion of Scripture is inspired, God goes above and beyond, and he actually builds chiastic structures within chiastic structures. This leg right here has its own chiastic structure built within it, and this leg over here has its own chiastic structure built within it. I won't go into that, but I could share that with you on the side if you want. I won't waste the time. Also, there's chiastic structures built into Ellen White's writings. It's very interesting. The chapter, It Is Finished in Desire of Ages, for example, that entire chapter is in a chiastic format. A lot of the chapters and the testimonies, the conflict series of the ages, they begin with God is love, they end with God is love, and the middle book is the Desire of Ages, which exemplifies Jesus and God being love. And so, just like the first 5 books of the Bible, those are also built in a chiastic format. Did you know that? The end of Genesis is Jacob dying, or he blesses his 12 sons, then he dies. The end of Deuteronomy is Moses blessing the 12 tribes, and then he dies. Those are the very terminal points of Genesis and Deuteronomy. The story of Exodus is from Egypt to Mount Sinai. The story of Numbers is Mount Sinai forward. So you have basically 2 halves of the same story, and then in the center is Leviticus. So why would Leviticus be the center of the chiastic structure? It's like the most boring book, right? Why would that be the point of emphasis? Well, it's for a very special reason, because Leviticus itself, and this is not just Adventist authorship or scholarship, but others also recognize that the book of Leviticus as a whole is built in a chiastic format. So the Pentateuch, the first 5 books, build up to Leviticus, and then Leviticus itself gets to a sharper point, and guess what the center of Leviticus is? Leviticus 16, which is the Day of Atonement. So the primary emphasis, the central emphasis of the entire first 5 books of the Bible, which is the foundation of all Scripture, that all other Scripture is compared to, is the Day of Atonement. And is the Day of Atonement important? Absolutely. It's like the superlative day of the whole year because it's the one day when the high priest goes into the most holy place. You're talking about the high priest, not any priest, going into the most holy place, not any holy place, right? So anyway, that's a tangent. We need to get on with the presentation. So I got a whole presentation on that stuff. All right. So as I mentioned, I work for Adventist World Radio, and I just wanted to share with you just a really quick video that highlights some of the things that Adventist World Radio does, and then we're going to use that as a platform to drill down into sharing literature, okay? So we're going to start with this. It seems unrelated, but it's not, and it gets into literature.
Adventist World Radio goes wherever air goes. When the world shuts down, AWR shows up. Amid Ukraine's blazing bombs and military tanks, AWR 360 has committed $1 million to rig up a semi-trailer truck equipped with solar-powered God pods, mobile medical equipment, evangelistic outreach tools, and AWR radio programs airing directly from our truck. Where hope is needed, God makes a way for AWR 360 to serve. God cares about the 3 Muslim men in Uganda that walked from their mosque into our radio station seeking baptism after watching our series Unlocking Bible Prophecies. God cares for the dozens of witches throughout Madagascar that have given up worshiping the dead and now serve the living God. God cares about the people in the marketplace of Ghana. AWR rented loudspeakers proclaiming the 3 angels' messages among the fruits and vegetables, and recently 10,000 were converted. Outside Bogota, Colombia, God stretched our airwaves beyond expected capacity. Within weeks, our new radio station surprisingly reached into the capital city. So far, 240,000 people have contacted us, with 37,000 requests for Bible studies. Over the 52 years of ministry, God has blessed AWR. We now have more than 1,800 AM/FM radio stations. AWR 360 follows up with our listeners who need a community of Bible believers and prayer warriors. When prayer goes up, power comes down. We established a Center for Digital Evangelism, a contact center near Manila. Our trained missionaries are available to communicate in 20 languages. Last year, they answered more than 100,000 messages. Friends, here is a rare and beautiful testimony. A Tibetan monk listened to AWR. He had a deep desire to share about a Creator and Savior who personally loves him. After being baptized into the Seventh-day Adventist Church, he is now recording the Unlocking Bible Prophecies series. God cares that His truth is in the Tibetan language. In the Philippines, 30 assassins dared not get married because they all had warrants out for their arrests. AWR showed up and God stopped the war between the New People's Army rebels and the government military. Now fully pardoned, these former rebels are getting married, being baptized, building churches, giving Bible studies, and preaching their own evangelistic series. God's secret agents are risking their lives, like our little lady who carries a camouflage load of radio God pods across mountain ridges into a closed country. Another faithful woman sneaks into her closet every night for the last 18 years to broadcast, beaming a light while hidden in the dark. In many of the stand countries, our solar-powered God pods in their local languages are crossing borders. Miracle after miracle, anonymously, in the middle of this dying world's chaos. Whether through the airwaves or boots on the ground, God has AWR show up.
All right. Nice. Yeah, that's a video that I cut out sections of, so it's actually longer, but there's a lot of neat things that are happening with AWR. You know, when COVID happened and a lot of countries were shut down to travel, the Philippines was very strict, but the government in the Philippines actually would, of the few people that they let in, they let AWR personnel come in to do ministry because AWR was instrumental in making this rebel group in the Philippines stop fighting against the government and give up their weapons. So there's been thousands of them now that have converted and been baptized, and so they wanted to, the government is interested in having these guys neutralized, so the best way to do it is through the gospel rather than killing them. And so it was, they would let our people fly in during COVID. So yeah, it's very interesting. God's been opening up a lot of doors. Those 300,000 plus baptisms that happened in Papua New Guinea, that was summer, I think, or spring of last year. And then Pope Francis actually came and followed up with a visit to Papua New Guinea that same year in September. So, I guess maybe they heard, I don't know, that 300, actually it's over 400,000 now, have been baptized. And so I guess it was time to send the big guns in, But we actually printed 4 million tracts so that our people were ready to greet the Pope with a gift when he came, and it was good. It was good. So, okay, so kind of setting the context for AWR and what I do with them. Sometimes people ask, if there's something that they can do to join AWR team. Obviously, prayer is important. A lot of people like to donate towards AWR. That's also important. It helps us to do a lot of what we do around the world. And then there are different ways to participate. For example, you can join us on one of our mission trips at this website right here. You actually can see all the mission trip opportunities that we have available. I think right now we have 2 opportunities to go and preach in different countries in Africa. I post up there too when we have mission trips to go distribute literature in different places. I just finished doing a mission trip down in Bogota, Colombia, about 2 months ago, and while we were there, we worked with the union and we passed out 5 million tracts. These are what they look like. Actually, I have a few in my pocket, so I guess we didn't do all 5 million, did we? 5 million minus 5 tracts. But right here, this is one in Spanish that you can see. So the whole union was involved passing out the literature, but we brought in a group of 60 church members from different parts of the world, and I was there helping lead that operation for a few days. And we ended up getting out our target goal of 500,000 tracts in 4 days. That's how many people are there. It was incredible. A lot of great stories that have come out of that. So if you'd like to join us on one of our mission trips internationally, there's definitely that option, and that would be the website to go to. You can see a little bit about what that looks like on this slide. And then, of course, what we're talking about today, which is you can be a tract missionary. In other words, we can just pass out literature wherever we go in our daily lives. You don't have to use AWR literature necessarily, although we do have some really good options. But we have some literature here at the church, which we're going to make available for those of you who are exiting. We're going to have guards at the door, so nobody can leave. How many doors do we have here? 1. Does that exit outside? We're going to have to guard that one too, I think, maybe. 3? So I'm going to need 3 strong men stand at the doors. Nobody exits unless they get literature in their hands. So, yeah, we'll probably want to pull some of that out and make it available, unless there's some in the foyer already. But I want us to take hold of this and actually, do something with it this week. So, there's a statement where Spirit of Prophecy says, let every Seventh-day Adventist ask himself, what can I do to proclaim the third angel's message? The distribution of our literature is one means by which the message is to be proclaimed. Let every believer scatter broadcast tracts, leaflets, and books containing the message for this time. So this is something that all of us can do. Literature is something that doesn't require a lot of skill. It just requires that you have a thumb, because then you can grab a piece of literature and pass it out, right? So how many of you have thumbs? Yeah? You're supposed to go like this. This is encouraging me. Good job, good job. Yes. Yes, I suppose even if you didn't have a thumb, you could still do it because you could grip the literature in other ways. But, it's the bar is very low. All of us can be literature evangelists. So I used to be in charge of GLOW. Back in 2007 is when we started it. And now I'm being in charge of literature for Adventist World Radio. Just a picture of one of our tracts that we have here. This is an incredible story about a woman who used to be a witch in Madagascar, but she listened to Adventist World Radio, got a hold of the Adventist church there through it, and ended up converting and also helping establish a church herself. So it's a really powerful story, and it basically tells the reader, hey, if this woman can have her life changed, so can you, most definitely, because most of us here aren't witches that are possessed by demons. So if she can have her life changed, so can the rest of us. We've also produced a great controversy version, which is really neat because every other chapter has QR codes that connect people, the readers, to a live, breathing Seventh-day Adventist who's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to minister to them and connect them with local church opportunities. So, but yeah, what I want to do right now is I just want to share with you some of the top methods for passing out literature. I did say 12 methods during the divine service, but we'll see. It might end up being a little bit less, might end up being a little bit more. But these are methods that have come from different church members. Inevitably when I give a presentation like this, people afterwards come up and they share with me their own ideas. For example, I was in Hollister a while ago presenting this and those guys actually ordered 50,000 tracts before I showed up. And at the end of it, the people were hauling off with whole boxes of those things. They were so excited. But this lady came up to me and she was sharing with me, hey, I got an idea for how I'm going to give out literature. I said, well, what is it? She says, personal item bags, personal item bags. I was like, what is a personal item bag? She said, well, look, I'm a policewoman, and whenever we arrest somebody and take them to jail, we take all their stuff, their clothes and everything, and we put it in a personal item bag. So when they're done being in jail, they get their personal item bag back, they get all their stuff, and they can go back outside. So obviously, she was going to slip tracts inside of every personal item bag, and that was her method. So people give us different ideas over the years, and we compiled them into presentations like this. So number one way of getting out literature in everyday life is travel. Travel. I know all of us here travel, and when we're traveling, we're interacting with different people that are outside of our home, so it's a great opportunity to witness. How do we travel? In a car, public transportation, airplanes. When we travel, you stay in hotels. There's rest stops. Every single one of those are great opportunities to give out literature. For example, I was in an airport not long ago, and I had not had my devotions yet. And while I was waiting for my flight, I found a chapel in the airport. A lot of airports have chapels. And so I found this chapel, and I went inside, and I was just going to spend some time reading in the Bible. And as I was doing that, all of a sudden, a whole group of people came into the chapel room. And I looked up at the schedule that was on the wall, and I noticed that there was the Catholic service was about to begin. And so I, rather than leaving, I thought I'll just stick around and, see how it goes, how it went. So the priest went to the front, and he told everybody, basically, we didn't bring the Eucharist with us today. So instead of doing that, what we're going to do is our worship service is going to be comprised of an open microphone time. And we want you guys to come to the mic and share blessings and that kind of stuff. Yes, and my eyebrows twitched because I was excited. I was seeing God opening doors. And so when the mic eventually came around to me, I had kind of formulated what my plan was. Basically, I wanted a pretext for talking to the priest afterwards. And so I wanted the priest to know that I knew the Bible, and I wanted him to remember me for what I was about to say, right? So when the mic came, I forget exactly what it was I said, but whatever I did say, it included quite a bit of allusions to Bible verses and that kind of stuff, And sure enough, when the service was done, people hadn't left yet. They were still kind of talking with each other and sitting. I went directly up to the priest who was on the stage, and I introduced myself, and he said, oh, you're that young man who blah, 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 said that nice whatever testimony. So he remembered me, just like I wanted. And so because he had a favorable impression, I said, hey, you know what, I wanted to just give you something that I found a blessing. So I gave him a Bible pamphlet. And when he got that from me, he went over to the microphone and spoke to everybody. He got all their attention. And at that moment, I was a little bit concerned. I didn't know what he was going to say. But he said, hey, everybody, this young man here, he has some really good materials for you. And I want you guys to make sure that you get it. So please don't leave yet. He's going to come around and give you the literature. And so the doors of opportunity were opened. I went around and gave literature to everybody. And it was definitely a divine appointment. So, we got to keep our eyes open when we're traveling. God has a lot of different opportunities for us to get out literature. One time I was going through a airport security line, and I had prayed that God would give me a divine appointment that day, and I felt a conviction to give a piece of literature to the woman who's standing in line behind me in the security line. But it was really going to be awkward because it was so silent. I mean, it was early morning, it was very silent. There's other people in line, and if I would have said something to this woman, everybody would have heard. And then if she would have rejected me, everybody would have heard. And I would have just been like shrinking up in embarrassment, and everybody would have heard my shrinking. It was that quiet. And so, like the coward I was, I didn't give out the literature. I got to the point where I had to take off my jacket, empty my pockets, put it into the little bucket, and it goes through the scanner. I got through the scanner thing. They found out I didn't have any bombs, which is good. And I got on the other side, and I began to pull my stuff back out of the bucket. As I pulled my jacket out of one of the pockets of my jacket fell all of my tracts on the ground. And all of them were one kind. They all said, "A gift for you." At that very moment, the woman who I felt convicted to give it to stepped through the scanner herself, right behind me, and saw all of my literature on the ground that says, "A gift for you." And she says, "Oh, what is that? Hello?" I mean, it couldn't have gotten any easier. She wanted it. B, I literally had my script right there. I didn't need to, guess at what to say. I could just say, "Well, it's a gift for you," right? So needless to say, she got some literature, not because of me, but because God probably had an angel, kind of shoving my stuff out. Don't just pray for literature to go out and not do anything about it, because God will arrange circumstances. So, a lot of different things I could say. When you're in a hotel, if there's a Gideon Bible there, you can put literature in there as a bookmark, Exodus chapter 20. Montel Williams, have you guys ever heard of him? So he got one of our tracts when he was in an airplane on health. Then he got the identical same title while he was in a did I say an airplane? When he was in an airplane. And then at a hotel afterwards. And when he got the second one, and it was the same one, it caught his attention. So he read it, and it was on the New Start principles. He had his assistant call the Upper Columbia Conference Literature Ministries director, the person in charge of GLOW. Her name at the time was Jordana Ashburn. And she answered this phone call, and the right-hand guy of Montel, he's like, "Montel got this. He loves it. He says this is the best write-up he's read on health in a long time. He's just getting into health." And he ordered 1,000 of them on the phone on the spot. He said he was going to call back and order more. I don't think he did. But, literature got into the hands of Montel Williams. We've gotten literature into the hands of Arnold Schwarzenegger. We had the Ag Expo down in Tulare, and some of our church members were there selling burgers. And one of the tracts that they were giving away while they were doing that ended up in the hands of Arnold when he was our governor at the time. So a lot of different ways you can give it out. When you're flying in an airplane, it's especially beneficial. You can just give it to your seatmate who's next to you. It's not like they can run away. So you can put it inside. In some of the airplanes you sit in, right in front of you, in the chair right in front of you, there's a little thing. It says, there's a little gray plastic holder, and it says literature only. That is meant for your literature. So you can stick it there. A lot of different ways you can leave literature when you're traveling. Okay, let's keep going. Method number 2, you can leave it on cars. Now, why do I bring this up? It's because cars, even though that kind of sounds funny, cars are one of the best ways to get literature out. Now, I'm not talking about just any kind of literature. It's a little bit harder with a book. But if you have literature that's small, like the format of what I just pulled out here, you can take literature and you can leave it in the car. And 2 things that it does. Number 1, it's an easy way to get out literature for people who are chickens, because you don't have to interact with somebody. Number 2, it really is effective because when you put it on the car door, it requires the person to interact with it. Don't put it on the windshield wiper. A lot of times they don't notice it until they start driving anyway. So put it on the car door. And which car door would you want to put it on? The driver's side, right? Just in case there's only one person, right? So on the car door handle. And then number 3, the reason why it's so good to do cars is because we all pass by cars when we go to a store and we park. So you just park a little further away from the store than normal, get your exercise, burn a few more calories, and zigzag in and out between a few cars, and it works really well. You can dump a lot of tracts in that method. So if you practice, you can get really good at this. You can stick a whole pack, not a whole pack, but a partial pack in your pocket, a pocket pack, right? And then what you can do is you can, as you're walking, you see the car door handle for the driver's side would be like right here if I'm walking this way. So you can walk by, you can get really good at practicing this, and in one fluid movement, you pull it out, you bend it like this, and you poke it into the car door, right? And then you walk around that car, and you go to the other side of it, and now the car door handle for the next car is on this side, on your left side. So you pull out the next one, and in one fluid movement, you stick it in like that, right? And then you go like this, and go like that, so on, right? The key is to just make sure to look in advance so that there's nobody sitting in the car that you're about to do that to, because that can create an awkward situation. So one time I was in Bakersfield. I was leading a group of church members to go do outreach, and it was raining, which is very rare in Bakersfield. Sabbath afternoon, and so we decided to take my team. There was 2 teams, but my team decided to go to put them on cars. And we went to a multi-level parking garage at a mall, because then you have a roof over your head, right? So the rain wouldn't get on us, wouldn't get on our literature. You don't want wet literature. Although we did have somebody sign up for Bible studies, and they found our literature on a drinking fountain that had been water damaged, and they could barely read anything, but they could read the number. So they called in and signed up for Bible studies. But regardless, so I had my team there. We were passing out literature on these cars in a multi-level parking garage, and before I knew it, security pounced on me, right? And before I knew it, there was 2 of them, a skinny white guy, a big black guy, skinny white guy in front of me, big black guy behind me, and they had my legs spread, they had my hands handcuffed behind my head, and I was the associate publishing director at the time for the conference. So this was not going to look good. You know, this is like shameful, right? What if I get thrown in jail? Would have made a better story. But anyway, so as I'm like bound here, the skinny white guy, he starts interrogating me. He starts asking me these questions, and he's all acting tough. He's like, yeah, we saw what you're doing. You guys are trying to steal cars. And it dawned on me, because I had a smile on my face, because I was just like, this is silly. Like, we're just giving out evangelistic literature or whatever. And then I realized what they were thinking. And, they're looking at us through these security cameras that are in dim lighting. I don't know what the resolution is, so I can see why they might think that. Plus, we had a whole group of us wandering around, so it's a lot to try and trace through security cameras. And I got a bigger smile on my face when I saw that, and I pointed with my nose, because I couldn't with my hands. I pointed with my nose at the car right next to me, which I had just put literature on. And I said, excuse me, sir, look at this car right here. Look, you see what's on that handle? And he looked at it, and he realized that was just Christian literature, and he stopped, he froze. And the big guy behind me also froze. They looked over my shoulder at each other, just stunned, like they don't know what to do. This is a weird situation. What do we do with this? What's the policy for this? So in the midst of this awkwardness that you could cut with a knife, the skinny white guy, who had just a moment ago pulled out from my jacket pocket a whole stack of tracts because he was feeling for weapons, he had pulled out a whole stack. At this moment, he looks at this stack in his hands while I'm still bound, and he starts going through them. And he pulls out one that says the end of the world. He says, hey, can I have this? I was like, yeah, you totally can, man. In fact, I'd give you more, but, So they unhandcuffed me, let me go. They rounded up all the church members, and all of us church members, they were like in a circle, and the security guards were like in a bigger circle around us. They were kind of scuffing their feet like they didn't know what to do. So I took the initiative. I said, hey, guys, look, we'll get out of here. But before we go, let us give you something. So we gave all the security guards literature, and then we took off. Amen. So, now, I'm not suggesting that that's going to happen when you put literature on cars. That's only happened once that I know of. But it actually ended up turning out well because, who knows? The security guards might not have gotten literature otherwise. So, when we do these mass distributions, oftentimes we have a good go with the security guards. I tell my people on my teams, especially in the United States, when we do mass distributions, we want to be respectful, we want to be kind. We are not here to get in and do anything unlawful, but expect that at some point you're probably going to have a security guard say, you got to go. And when that happens, don't get discouraged. Just keep on going and offer them a piece of literature. So we've had some really good experiences with that. So I highly recommend cars. Cars are a great way to get literature out and get a lot out, get it in people's hands. You guys know Steve Wohlberg? Yeah? He's an Adventist. He's an author. White Horse Ministries. So I've worked with him for years. He was on our tract development committee. He's actually written quite a few of the Glow tracts. And he wrote me one day, and he said, hey, I just got out of the grocery store and came back to my car, and guess what he found on his car? Somebody had glowed his car, which I thought was pretty funny. All right, another method for giving out literature, I'm clicking on my computer but not here, is when you're shopping. You can put literature in a shopping cart. You can give it to the cashiers. There's a lot of different ways that you can get out literature when you're shopping. And believe it or not, it works. Visalia, California, there was a guy who was shopping. He and his wife had sent their 10-year-old son. These are not part of the Adventist church. They'd sent their 10-year-old son to a vacation Bible school program. When the son was there, he had learned about Saturday Sabbath observance. And he came back home and he said, Mom and Dad, why aren't we going to church on Saturday? And he and his wife didn't know. They never even thought about that. So while this question was fresh in their minds, they were shopping at Walmart, and the guy thought he saw trash in his shopping cart, where upon closer inspection, he realized that it was actually some of our tracts. And he picked it up, and one of them was on the topic of the Sabbath. And he read it and was impressed because of this question that his kid had just asked them. And he called the phone number on the back to my secretary, Desiree, at the time, and he said, can I sign up for Bible studies on the topic of the Sabbath? And we're like, yeah, absolutely. Tell us your story. And then he told us what I just told you. So it was a total divine appointment. We've had a lot of amazing things happen in stores. There are some stores where Adventists have given out literature so much in their local store. Entire churches, you tend to go to the same store, right? In Woodland, maybe you all go to Costco, maybe you all go to Walmart. I don't know what you do, but, I'm sure that you guys are hitting the same cashiers frequently, between this size of a church. And in some of the stores, we have given out so much literature that you just go to the cashiers and you don't say, have you gotten a tract? You say, which one have you not gotten? It's pretty cool when that happens. So, all right. Let's look at our next one here. Holidays. So which holiday out of the year is the best holiday to give out literature? Christmas? Think again. Halloween. Now, Christmas is good. Christmas is good. You can bake your cookies and go give them to your neighbors and put some literature in there. I remember actually in my neighborhood one time I went up to a neighbor that I had never talked to before on Christmas or close to Christmas. We had baked some cookies. I was a bachelor at the time, so it was understandable that when I offered them cookies, they were like, no. And they started backing away behind their door, right? But as soon as I told them that I was their neighbor, they all of a sudden changed their tune. They came back. I don't know, maybe they thought I was a salesman or something. They came back, because when you say you're a neighbor, come on. You can't, reject your neighbor. You have a special power over your neighbors, just so you know. And if you have cookies, you have an even greater power. And if you have cookies and little kids, you are supremely empowered. In fact, if you don't have little kids, I recommend that you rent children. I mean, the Pathfinder Club might rent them to you for a certain amount of money. I don't know. Maybe they're doing a fundraiser. Use them to do evangelism in your neighborhood. But use kids. They just cut through stuff like a hot knife through butter. It's great, especially in retirement communities and stuff like that. They just, man, it's amazing. All right, enough with that. So Christmas is a good one, but Halloween is even better. Halloween is better. I mean, what time of the year do you ever have where people come and knock on your door asking for things? Isn't it normally the other way around? The preacher's up front, we got to go door to door. No, this is more like just be at your door, right? And yet some of us will draw the curtains and close and lock the doors and turn out the lights. No, this is awesome. They're coming to your house. They're just kids, I get it if you don't, I don't agree with Halloween. I don't agree with what everything is celebrated and all that, but you know what it is? 31st is also the Reformation Day. So look at it from that perspective. That's when Martin Luther posted the 95 Theses. So let's get out there and, All Saints Day, forget that. Halloween, this is Reformation Day, Dress up like Martin Luther or something if you want. Pound some literature on your door instead of 95 Theses, I don't know. But look, if people are coming to your house and asking for things, you better give them literature. You better, man. Not just these little sesame seed candy-like things from ABC. which, by the way, is not candy. That's why I said candy-like. So yeah, two different ways of doing it. One is to wait for the kids to come to you. That's like the reactive way. But the proactive way would be you go to them. So rather than waiting for them to come to you, go out there. Even as an adult. I'm not saying collect candy. I'm saying go out there and give out literature. Walk up and down the streets. You don't even have to go to one door. You can get the people on the sidewalk when they're walking. You know? Yeah, tracts. There's tracts like Are Ghosts Real that are made just for Halloween. It's so easy to give away. Hey, I got a little gift for you. You know, if you want to say Happy Halloween, go ahead. Just say whatever you want. Just get the thing in their hand. You can dress up in a bed sheet and pretend to be Moses or something. I don't know. Or just dress up in your church clothes. Wear like a bicycle helmet with an elder sign, and people will, you know, I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can represent yourself out there as though you're wearing a costume. So one time I was taking a group of church members, we were going door to door, and I realized I have 14 minutes left to be on an hour target. So I was taking a group of church members out door to door, and this is in Lemoore, California. And we were a Halloween night, we're giving out literature, and out of this house, walking towards me on my street is a full-grown man wearing a full-body banana suit. The banana shape was like from here all the way down to here, and he had yellow leotards to top it off. He was a full banana. And I thought, this is going to be an incredible story. So, of all tracts, I thought I'd give him one on the end of the world. So I went to the banana guy, gave him the end of the world tract, and he apparently found it appealing because he asked for a whole stack. He took a whole stack of those tracts from me because he wanted to give them out. So after I did that, we split ways. And half an hour later, I actually ended up meeting this banana on another street, and he had emptied his whole stack, and he asked for more. Come on, guys. I mean, if a random non-Adventist banana can do this work, so can we. I remember another street I was at in Salinas. I had to get back to the church. Our time was up on Halloween night. We had to get back and meet and share testimonies. I hadn't finished my street. So I found this little kid. I bumped into him a couple other times. I said, hey, man, come over here. And this little kid comes up to me. He's probably like 10. I was like, hey, listen, I'll cut you a deal. He's like, what? What's your deal? It's like, look, I got this bag of candy. Because, you know, you go door to door, people force it on you. Not that I would ever eat it. And I said, I'll give you what I got in my bag if you take these pieces of paper and you give them out to everybody at the doors on the rest of the street. He's like, deal. So he took my bag, and then he ended up taking my tracts and finishing up my job on the street. So Halloween, great opportunity to give out literature. I highly, highly recommend that. By the way, I don't think this one is listed here. No, it is. We're going to get right to it, actually. Fuel. How many of you guys have a car that takes gasoline? All the rest of you, your Tesla? No? Chevy Bolt, right? Is that what it is? You know, Jehovah's Witnesses monopolize the laundromats, and I think Adventists should monopolize the gas stations. Because there's more gas stations than laundromats, and more people visit the gas stations than laundromats. So I think we should take them over. Every gas station is an evangelistic hub waiting to happen. You know, when you go to a gas station, the pump that you have, there's several different places on that pump where you can take a piece of literature and you can put it there. It's almost as though the pumps were divine appointedly made for Adventist literature to go in it. There's so many different great places. For example, for me, I like this one spot where the receipt prints out, bzzz, like there's like a little lip there. You can tuck a piece of literature underneath and the receipt will print out right on top of it, but it holds it in like this picture-perfect format. It's so easy. Another place is where you get if you imagine that you're holding that gas handle or pump nozzle thing, and you stick it back in to the little black hook underneath. In between that hook and the gas thing, you can stick it there too. It's another way of putting it. So when you're at the gas station, the easiest thing to do is put it on your own pump. I mean, it's so easy. If you want, you can also go and, while you're waiting for your gas to pump, just put it on automatic. You can go around to the other ones that are empty, where there's nobody pumping gas, and you can put the literature on those ones. Now, if you're really brave, you can give it to the people who are also pumping their gas. Another benefit, of course, is that they can't run away because they're tethered to their gas pump. But here's how I do it. And I'm sneaky because I'm a chicken. I'll go up to them and I'll say, "Excuse me, sir, do you mind if I put this piece of literature on the pump here for the person who comes after you?" So am I giving it to them? No. I'm giving it to the pump to give to the person after them. So technically they shouldn't be able to reject me because it's not their pump, and also I'm not giving it to them anyway. And 9 times out of 10, when you do that, they get interested, and they'll either take it for themselves once you leave, or they'll ask for a second one while you're there, and then you can leave one for the person that comes after. So don't offer it to them. Offer it to the person who comes after them, and put it on the pump. "Excuse me, sir, do you mind if I leave this on the pump for the person who comes after you?" And see what happens. You know, another really interesting and fun way of doing that when you're interacting directly with somebody, I'm going to throw this one in as a bonus, okay? And I really challenge you to try this. Try it. It's fun. Is take your literature, if you have small literature, like the ones I have, and where those other tracks disappear to? I got deep pockets. No, that's not it. That's money. Anyway, so really, I just had my tracks. It's like the Bermuda Triangle in my pockets. Oh, here we go. Wrong pocket. So take your tracks, have a few different kinds, and fan them out like a deck of cards. So you can do this, like, for example, to your cashier, somebody you got a few seconds with. Be like, "Hey, I got a game I want you to play. Super quick, very easy. Pick a card." Now, if you hold them upside down, they can't tell the difference, all right? Just pick anyone. And they pull it out, and then you look at it. You won. You get to keep it, right? So that's one way of getting it in their hands. Or you could say, "You won. You get the rest of them." I actually learned this method from a guy who's not part of the Adventist church. His name is Jimmy, and he's a trucker. He would go to a gas station, rest stops, and this is what he would do. He'd go up to people and offer it like a deck of cards. Another way that you can do it, and I've done this too, is I'll take only 3, maximum 3, because you don't want to overload them. But go up to a cashier, for example, when you're ordering Taco Bell next time. After you're done with your order, say, "Hey, I just got a quick question for you. So I got these 3 little pamphlets here. This one talks about what happens after you die. This one talks about how to have peace. This one talks about what's going to happen at the end of the world. Of those three topics, which one's the most interesting to you?" And then they'll pick one. And you say, "Okay, cool. By the way, you can have this." And so you've had a little bit of a conversation with them to build rapport before you give them the literature. And that's key. So a lot of times people ask me, they say, "Well, what am I supposed to say when I give literature to people?" I mean, there's no way to answer that. There's no way to answer that because every situation is different, right? Really what it depends on is it depends on the amount of time you have with the person. On the one extreme, if you're giving literature to somebody that you've known for your entire life, it's like your spouse. Obviously, you're going to know what to give to them. You're going to know what to say, to some degree. You're probably not even going to give them a tract. You're going to give them a book. You're going to give them a Bible study. On the other hand, on the other extreme, is giving literature to somebody that you don't know at all, and not only that, but they're literally just walking past you with no intention of stopping. Now, those people, depending on the crowd size, you don't even say anything. All that you speak is your body language. You put the tract in their physical space, and they take it, right? So if there's a whole crowd of people and they're moving quickly, a lot of times you don't even say anything. But if you have a couple seconds, you can say, "Here you go, here's something to read, here's a gift for you," something very simple like that. But in an ideal situation, for example, a cashier, you don't have a lot of time with them, but you have a little bit. Try to talk to them about something, anything. That way you can build a little bit of rapport with them before you give them the literature. And that way it increases the likelihood that they're going to take it and that they're also going to read it. So in Tokyo, we did a distribution of 750,000 tracts there March of 2024. And we thought that we were going to go there as a team and give out literature to the people on those crowded streets. You always see in Tokyo all these huge masses of people walking around in these intersections. Wrong. We went there for our pre-visit to make sure that we had everything figured out. Come to find out, A, they won't even allow you to do that. You technically have to have a certain spot and have it reserved to do stuff like that. But B, the people in Tokyo, their culture is such that they will not take anything from you if you just go directly up to them and give it to them. It's It's like unheard of in their society to do that because they're so reserved that if somebody comes up and does it to them, they just don't know what to do with that. So they just won't take it from you. So if you're going to give it to them directly, you actually have to take a little bit of time and talk with them. Ask them a question. Hey, do you know where the 7-Eleven is or something like that? And then you have a little bit of interaction, and then they'll take the literature afterwards. But just giving it straight to them doesn't work. So putting on the gas pumps, I highly recommend that. Also laundromats while we're at it. There's laundromats here in town. Find the laundromats. Go there and put your literature in there. Go talk to the manager if you want. You can get a little display rack. Put your literature in there and make it a point to man that and go and stock it every now and then so that it has literature. San Francisco. We have a Seventh-day Adventist Samoan church there. And if you know Samoans, they're pretty big people. And one of our people had put their Adventist literature in the laundromat there in San Francisco, one of our Samoan sisters. And she was sitting there doing her laundry, and in walked an actual Jehovah's Witness. They picked up the Adventist literature. They went right over to the trash can. They were about ready to dump it. And this Samoan sister, she said, "What are you doing?" Let me tell you, when a Samoan tells you that, you better put it back. So that's exactly what happened. She just went, put the literature back, and left. Amen. All right. Last one here is how to give out literature. Mail. Did you know you can give out literature from the comfort of your own home? You can mail it. In fact, the publishing ministry for the World Church essentially started with a few women in Massachusetts who decided to get together and do handwritten correspondence ministry with people. They learned even different languages to correspond with people, talk to them about the Bible. And they would include evangelistic literature in their mailings as well. That ended up eventually growing into the Vigilant Tract and Missionary Society, and things evolved from there. George King came along. He started selling tracts at first, and then he asked for the book Daniel to Revelation to be put together so he could sell that, and he sold those. Then he started training colporteurs, and then we have what was modern-day literature evangelism for the church. But it all started with some women who were actually mailing literature from their homes. How can we mail literature? Well, do you guys ever get junk mail? Those credit card offers that have the prepaid return envelope on the inside? There you go. That's free evangelism money right there. You send that literature back inside of those prepaid envelopes, and one of two things is going to happen. Either they're going to stop sending you that junk mail, or somebody's going to get baptized. Hopefully both. Although they're mutually exclusive, but, In fact, I recommend to churches that they set up a ministry. A lot of people don't like going door to door. Okay, I get that. But you still don't have an excuse. You can be a literature evangelist. Somebody in this church needs to take it upon themselves to make a little box out of wood with a little slit on top. And every Sabbath, you stand there in the foyer and you hold it. And when church members come through the door, you have them put their junk mail that they collected during the week into that slot. You collect that, and once a month or once a quarter, depending on how much junk mail you get your church members together in the potluck room, and you start licking those envelopes and sending that stuff back in. You start a junk mail ministry. Amen. So there's a lot of different ways of doing literature. Like I said, you can do it from the comfort of your own home. People get pretty creative when it comes to giving out literature, when it comes directly hand to hand. I know, for example, a kid who was in the Edmonton Mall in Canada. He had two buddies with him. They were on the second floor. He took his buddies, "Hey, come over here, I want to show you something." They came to the edge. They looked down to the first floor, and he said, "Watch this." He took his tract out of his pocket, and he dropped it. And as the tract was falling down to the first floor, a woman walked out from underneath on the first floor, and she opened her purse. And guess where it went? It actually went in her purse. And he looked at his buddies. He said, "Now that was a divine appointment." Right? So there's a lot of different ways of doing it. San Francisco, the head elder there, his name is Tony, San Francisco Central Church, or at least he was the elder, the head elder there a few years ago. He has a one-legged cockatoo. A raccoon got a hold of its leg a long time ago. This is one leg. one leg. And when he takes his parrot or his cockatoo outside, he's trained his cockatoo, so when people come up, they want to see it on his shoulder, he'll give them a tract, and then the bird will, in its beak, hand it out to the people. And who's going to say no to a bird, right? Another guy, he goes to the Redwood City Church, which is just south of San Francisco. Trying to remember his name. Anyway, he has a replica of Daniel 2 image. It's about that tall. And he goes and he sits somewhere where there's a lot of foot traffic. He just sits in a chair, and he sets that out in front of him. Inevitably, people stop, and they're like, what's that? And so he just hands them a Daniel 2 tract and does all the explaining for them. So, you get people to come to you. It's a lot easier than you going to them. You can wear shirts that help you with this. We used to have a shirt called, where it says, ask me for a free Bible pamphlet. And people will come up to you if you wear that. We had another one called the Motivator that says, I'll give you $5 if you ask me for a Bible pamphlet and I don't have one. And some of our people have gotten caught red-handed. Yeah, so either come prepared to take that shirt off if you don't have your literature, or have money to give away, or have your tracts. There was a group of youth one time that, I'm a minute over. Guess I had to cut it off, huh? All right. I literally have only like 3 more slides, and they're just quotes, okay? So we're going fast through those. We're going fast through those. We're going fast. I'm going to add some more time on the end. I've got a question for you. All right. Okay. Believe me, I'm not going to abuse your time here. I like being punctual, and I'm not right now. But, okay, so a youth group. This was a youth group in Sonora. They went over to Walmart with white shirts. But they had taken markers, and they had written something on their shirts. Every shirt said the same thing. So they walked into the store with tracts in their hands and wearing these shirts. They walked in as a group, all saying the same thing on their shirts. And as they would walk through Walmart, they would freeze with the tract in their hand, every one of them. And the shirt said, take the tract to unfreeze me. So people would be like, what in the world are these people doing, frozen in? Take the tract to unfreeze me. And they would take the tract, and then the kids would keep on walking like it was no big deal. And then they'd freeze again, and so on. So, I'm like, nobody here is going to do that, probably. Hey, but I'm illustrating how you can get very creative, right? Okay, so let's finish up here. A couple quotes. Carry with you wherever you go a package of select or different tracts, which you can hand out as you have opportunity. Now today, I don't know how many tracts we have. We have books, we have small books, we have, I think, some different kinds of pamphlets. Yeah. Do you want to say it now, or?
Well, all I was going to say was an admission. I was going to admit that I don't have many tracts here.
It's okay.
I have lots of small booklets of a range of kind that we have collected there. Yeah. And one thing I was going to ask you were a couple of minutes of suggestions on good ones that are small, that carry, pithy, useful, life-changing information, glow tracts, other ones, and which ones are effective, the most effective, that kind of stuff. Because we should get a bunch in. I have a lot of different things, signs, general great controversies, other little books on the Sabbath and things like that, and I have them in a box, and take some with you. But some of them are bigger, and they're not for random anyone, because you'll soon give them all away, and it might have been a waste of time, right? Unless the Lord impresses you that that's the person. But keep them anyway so that you have stuff, because someone has questions around these things. But we need some more of the stuff that you can give out in larger volumes, and you can always be more ready with. So that was all I was going to say.
Sure.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, in terms of small literature, that's good. Obviously, there's pocket signs. They're the same shape as glow tracts. Glow tracts has the most titles that I know of. I think when I was still in charge of it, we were over 50 different titles. You can purchase those online. It's the easiest way, buyglow.org, as in purchase, B-U-Y, glow. And they have different languages. There's different, through Pacific Press, they have different brands as well, like Message Magazine. It's more for African American community. They're the same format and size. AWR, also at Advent Source, we have a couple of different titles there. I'm being real cautious right now because I don't want to develop a whole bunch with AWR and overlap with what Glow's already done. Glow is now operated and owned the name by General Conference Publishing Department, and so Since we're both at the General Conference, we try and cooperate with each other and complement each other rather than overrunning each other. So, but we do have some on Advent Source's website. I highly recommend those. In terms of which tracts are the most effective, the general rule is any tract that you hand out the most is going to generate the most Bible study leads. That's what we found. And that's not just to be smart. I'm not being smart by saying that to you. I'm just telling you that's how it works. The only exception that we've kind of seen is maybe ones on the Sabbath. We have noticed in the past that when tracts are given out on the Sabbath, that it has, at least in the past, generated a higher percentage of people that are interested in signing up for Bible studies. So, Why I Go to Church on Saturday is a glow tract written by Gary Gibbs. That one's really good. Return to Rest is another one on the Sabbath. I'm forgetting the other one, but anyway. Yeah. So, okay. Keys to success, make sure that you keep the tracts close by you. If you don't have your literature with you, it does you no good. And then pray for divine guidance. So whether it's a tract or a book, whatever it is, God will open up the doors for you to get it out. Sometimes you don't even have to work. So God will show you the right ways to do it. And I don't mean that just to be like devotional and sound really nice. Literally, actually pray. And God will make the opportunities. He'll bring you to the right people. Or he'll impress you when you need to give a piece of literature out. So pray for that, and God will do the heavy lifting for you. Soon more than 1,000 will be converted in one day, most of whom will trace their first convictions to the reading of our publications. This is a quote that I really enjoy reminding myself about because what we do ultimately is a seed planting ministry. It's great to see the results. I know people who are baptized into the church because of tracts, glow tracts. Not only that, but now their children are baptized, and they're active members of their church in Clovis, and so on. But we don't always see that. But that's okay. We don't have to see everything. We just need to do our part faithfully, which is to plant the seed, and then God will take care of it. Because when the latter rain comes down, nothing's going to spring up unless there's seeds, right? So this is what this is picturing right here. There's been seeds that have been put into people's minds, and then the latter rain happens, and then those seeds spring up into helping people make decisions. Whereas if it was planted after the fact, it wouldn't have been as effective. So we just got to go out there and do our job. I kind of liken literature ministries to packing a bomb full of TNT, right? You can imagine a community. It's like an empty bombshell. The more literature you put into it, the more TNT you're packing into that thing. Now, you don't see any action, right, because you're just packing it with TNT. But the more TNT you put in there, the bigger is going to be the explosion in that place when the time is right. And so our job right now is to just load the cannons, get that stuff out into the community, and God will take care of the timing, and people will read it at just the right time. It's a lot of other stories I could share, stories about people who've gotten their literature, and then only years later, they've picked it up and read it, and they've been converted. Ryan Day from 3ABN, most of you probably heard about how he's fallen away from the Adventist church for his reasons, theological reasons, primarily. Well, did you know that he was actually brought into the church instrumentally? The large instrument was through glow tracts. When he was practicing the piano at his university, in those piano practice rooms, he would find glow tracts in there, and that's what started connecting him to the church. So, that's not like a wonderful example. Unfortunately, he's falling away, but that's no like what's the word I'm looking for? It has no connectivity to the fact of how he was brought in. I'm just saying that people get brought in, and this is one way that we can definitely do it. So, all right, believe me, I have a lot more that I could share with you. I was at a camp meeting once. They gave me 2 1.5-hour segments, and I filled all 3 hours with stories of this stuff. But I just picked a few to share with you. So it works if we're faithful. So let's grab some literature after we're done. I don't know how we want to go about doing that. Do we have some in the foyer, or do we need to go back there, or in a sorted box?
Maybe we could put that there, and people can go pick it up. But if you pick it up, it's for that use rather than your own use.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't have the little tracks yet. We'll have to get some on hand so that I don't have that excuse anymore. Yeah.
Sure. And again, you don't have to wait for the church to get you to literature. Obviously, you can go and get it online. A lot of people in the North American division do that. They don't wait for their church. They just go to the website. It's byglow.org, or you can go to Advent Source, and you can get some literature there that AWR has. and it's very inexpensive. So, all right, let's have a word of prayer. Father in heaven, thank you for the ministry of the word. Thank you that we can be ambassadors for you. Thank you, Lord, that you've given us such simple things. This is not something extremely challenging. It can be intimidating, but it's not near as intimidating as when the Israelites were commissioned to go and engage in war in the land of Canaan. Lord, this is just giving a piece of literature to somebody and maybe having them say no. So, Lord, I pray that you give us boldness if that's what we need. But above all, Lord, I pray that you would give us divine appointments. Lord, guide us to the right people that are in our sphere of influence, that we can put a piece of literature into the hands of so that they can have it in their home and hopefully have it in their heart and their mind and make a decision for the truth when the time is right. Thank you so much for hearing us. We pray, Lord, that you'd help us to be active lights for you in this community. Pray for that in your name. Amen. Yes? So there's two different phases of that question, maybe is what you're asking. The amount of languages is not necessarily the amount of languages that are printed in the United States. So in terms of the amount of languages that there are files for, that are available to be printed, that's, last I counted, was upwards of 70. But in terms of glow tracks, but the ones that are printed and available in North America that you can buy online, that you would need to go check and see what's on buyglow.org, for example, and they'll have what's available in stock there. Either that or glowcentral.org. That's Michigan's website, and they have literature there too. Might have some different languages, but probably not. We do have tracts in Vietnamese. We've printed them before in the United States, in California. I don't know if there's any still left in stock or not. That would be something that would be on the website. And the website also has a contact information for Desiree. And if you guys want to do like a special order, I know that they'll do stuff like that. But their concern is just that they don't want to order stuff specialty that's going to sit around in a warehouse for a long time. So if you have the means to actually purchase that whole thing and make sure that it's going to be shipped to the appropriate location so that it can go out and doesn't just stick in inventory in their warehouse, they'll be happy to work with you on getting that print run done and including it in a larger print run so that there can be good low prices. Yeah. So, all right. If there's nothing else, I think we're done. Yeah, other than getting the literature, don't forget the literature. That's the whole point. Don't let me just talk for an hour and then don't take literature. And if that box empties out quick, I think we have some more in the back, don't we? I don't know. I mean, okay. Okay.